Hey there, and thank you for listening to the Dream Center Peoria podcast. Dream Center Peoria exists to impact families living in poverty, starting with kids and youth. If you want to learn more about what we're up to at the Dream Center, you can find us online at dreamcenterpeoria.org or on social media at Dream Center Peoria. Thanks for listening.
My name's Andy, and welcome to the Dream Center podcast, this new series that we're doing called New Realities. As we're going through this pandemic at this time, and we wanted to just bring a little bit of good news, a little bit of things that are happening around the Dream Center, around the city, just so that we don't get lost in everything that's going on that could be pretty negative, but actually there's a lot of good stuff going on and will go on. And so today we wanted to talk with Sherri. How are you doing, Sherri?
Hey, good.
Many of you may know Sherri. She is our volunteer coordinator. So if you have been involved at the Dream Center, especially in the last 2-3 years, something like that, you will have come in contact with Sherri, and she heads up all the volunteer efforts. If there's something going on big or small, Sherri is the one that's reaching out to get people involved at the Dream Center. And so today we thought, because we're real close to Volunteer Appreciation Week, which is a nationwide thing that happens in April, we thought that we would talk to her about what goes into volunteering at Dream Center, but not only that, find out a bit about some of the people that are involved. We have just done 2 podcasts back to back that highlighted a couple of volunteers that are knee deep in what we're doing. And again, there are so many volunteers. We could have so many people on the podcast that today we thought, let's talk to Sherri, hear some of the stories, some of the fun times that the volunteers have. And then we can really see where some of our needs are, and you could get involved today just by filling out an application on our website. So, Sherri, I know our story goes back a few years ago when I was youth pastoring, and you were volunteering for me. You weren't even in the social service sector or anything. Tell us a bit about your journey as far as the transition of what you were doing to now what you're doing. Because it wasn't like your typical hire that most organizations would do.
Right.
So just tell us a little bit about that.
So I had been doing accounting for 30 years. I was actually the CFO for Jim Maloof Realtor. And like you said, I had been volunteering with the youth at Riverside, and the job came open. The volunteer community relations or community outreach job came open, and you and I talked about it a little bit. I was ready for a change, and it was within that week that I felt like God really took that burden of my current job off of me, and the rest is history. So
good
I
history.
love what I do. Yeah. It's a total change. It's still managing people, but in a different way. So,
and I know back then when you first came on at Dream Center, it wasn't just volunteers you were over. You were actually over all the outreach programs that we do. From Backpack to Mission Peoria to Promise of Hope, the Hope Store, so many different areas of that. And over the last few years, the Dream Center staff has grown to where now you can solely focus on volunteers. Because we got to a point where, to be honest with you, we were growing so fast that we were hearing that a lot of people were getting lost through the cracks that were trying to volunteer, and either we weren't getting back to them, we weren't getting information. And so we've really tried to eliminate that. And one of our staff core values is give ministry back.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole concept that we as staff do not want to be doing the work. I know that sounds really crazy.
There's too much to do.
Yeah, there's way too much to do. And so our aim is to really empower volunteers and to be a champion for volunteers and cheering them on and being able to get them into a place where we feel God wants them to be. And so as we've talked and seen that in the last few years, tell us a little bit, Sherri, about the process of how people can get involved, because it's really important. We're not just wanting a body, right?
Right.
We want people with skills, and then we want to use those skills to impact other people's lives. So tell us a bit about that.
Right. So the best way to get involved is to go online, and actually right now you can fill out the paperwork, email it to me. I can print it out here at home and get everything processed. So the best way is just to go online and do it. There are lots of things people can volunteer for. And once the person does fill out the paperwork, then I meet with them one-on-one, go over our core values at Dream Center, and tell them the variety of opportunities that we have to serve at Dream Center, try to match up their personality with the need that we have at Dream Center.
And that gets, I remember this is easy one to share, because I actually shared the last podcast, which was with Mike Hazel. When he first came to Dream Center, he's an engineer at CAP. So our first response was, oh, he can do tutoring, right?
Oh, yeah.
And because he's, a brainiac and that type of thing. But actually, his strength was showing kids how to repair a motorbike, even though we jumped to the conclusion that he's a brainiac, he can do this with kids, and he does that with kids. But what triggered his strengths and his passion was putting him in an environment where he could really use those strengths. And I think that's what we try to do with the one-on-one meetings.
Right.
How soon so someone goes onto our website, dreamcenterpeoria.org/volunteer. They fill out that it's like 5 questions. It's not much at all. But that then triggers you, correct?
Right.
To get in touch.
I send them all the paperwork. Usually when they get that paperwork back to me, I can usually get it done same day and reach out to them. Sometimes that isn't the case. Promise of Hope is going on or something big. It'll be a few days. But normally I get back to people pretty quickly. Yeah.
And I think that's been the Achilles heel for a lot of nonprofits and even a lot of churches as well, when they're involved or people wanting to get involved, and the one thing that stops people from getting involved is people not getting back to them to be able to get involved. And so we've really tried to nail that. And there are so many ways at the Dream Center that people can volunteer, and that's why we want to find out about the person, correct? I mean, wouldn't you say that's the essence of it?
Yes. I give a perfect example. Theresa Bell, she started out, we kind of try to start people out in the Hope Store if they're not sure where they want to volunteer. And she had started out in the Hope Store. It just wasn't her thing. So I was trying to get the ministry started with the craft time with the shelter ladies. And she jumped all over that, and she owns it. Every Friday she's there 9:30 to 2:30 with the ladies. They love her. She's, teaching them how to sew, crochet, make jewelry, crafting, any type of crafting. And then she's got a team of volunteers around her as well. But it was finding her place where, the Hope Store really wasn't her thing, and she wanted to do something more one-on-one with the shelter ladies. So this was like a great fit, and it helped us out because that was a need. I couldn't find a volunteer that would own it.
Yeah. And here's the other great thing that I feel comes about from being connected at the Dream Center is, last year, I know you do a lot with the churches as well that we work with. I remember you telling me that last year we had 85 different churches involved in all the different programs. 85 churches. There's not many many organizations that do that type of thing. Some are, and for good reason. Some are, hey, we're just going to have a couple of churches or 3 churches that could do this.
Right.
Or you've got the LA Dream Center that is a global thing where they've got churches from all over the world supporting them. Mm-hmm. For us, we've got a lot of local and a lot of state, and we do have some around the country as well that are involved with us, whether that's financial, sending missions teams, that type of thing. But the great thing about that is you get, and not only with churches, I've just highlighted churches because, you know, with us being faith-based.
Right.
But we have groups. That's Sorry. The dog. Okay, that's Sherri's dog, just in case you're wondering if she's got a bad cough. That's not. Okay, so, but not only is it church groups, but it's different corporations, different businesses. I know we did Red Day last year.
Yep, Keller Williams.
Will you explain what Red Day was?
So Keller Williams, a real estate company here in Peoria, they actually pick an organization and they do what's called Red Day. So they raise funds. They raised $10,000 for the Dream Center. They came in, we went through the Dream Center, figured out what projects they could do. They had about 80 people come in that one day, and they actually did that 2 years in a row. So that's how we got the hair salon done this last year.
And okay, so I know you've been wanting to talk about the hair salon. So we'll go to that in just a moment. But what I was trying to get to was all these different people from all different walks of life come together for one cause to impact families living in poverty, starting with kids and youth. And when they come, what they find is it's not just what they're giving young people or kids or the homeless or people with no to low or low income. They also find community themselves.
Oh, yeah. And, so, you know, not everybody who volunteers at the Dream Center belongs to a church. So we have unchurched people in. And what's great is to see them adapt and see how, you know, see God's love in action. It's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And we saw overwhelming, you mentioned the hair salon, which is, you know, just a prime example of, for us, finding a need and filling it. Okay. So a lot of you may not know this because we've only opened it a few times and then we've had to close most of our operations because of the coronavirus. But we actually built a hair salon in the Dream Center predominantly for our homeless population. But also we do have kids from the after school program and others that come. But this just shows the overwhelming side of what we do. I think when we did that one post, we had something like 20,000 views of people wanting to get involved. And how many hairstylists did you have? Just ask for information.
I had like 50 to 60 contact me and want to get involved. The thing is, they need to get their paperwork in, so I'm still working on that. But the response was huge.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that a lot of people take for granted, getting a haircut.
Yep.
Yeah. Although right now, I think a lot of people aren't taking it for granted. But you know, you think about someone who's homeless who doesn't have any money, who may not have showered in a while, even though at our dreams at the shelter at our Dream Center, we have, I think, 11 showers now, something like, with the new renovation. So we try to get folks showered. But just to walk into a hair salon, it's hard for someone that's homeless to get a haircut. There's a lot of barriers.
And they may not have had a haircut in a year. It could be, you know, who knows, and just that dignity, you know, back to our core values, dignity, compassion, and purpose, and just having that person get that haircut and just feeling like a human being and having dignity, you know.
So, and you touched on something that I want to touch on as well, because it is important. Just because you send that form in through our website doesn't mean you're ready to volunteer. Mm-hmm. Now, there are some things that we do where we don't ask for anyone to fill that out, right? Just, it may be a one-off.
Groups that come in.
Yeah, if a group comes in, they haven't got to fill all that out. But the reason why we do that is we do background checks on everyone. We have a lot of kids in our building, a lot of kids. And so just to protect you as a volunteer and also the kids and the families that God's given us to look after, there are some processes there. So if you have sent that in and Sherri has sent something back, we don't want you thinking like, man, this is hard to serve at the Dream Center. That's not at all our intention. It's we want to protect you and also who we serve, who God's given us to serve. So all those hairstylists, get the information back to Sherri. I can't go into anything right now, but there's some stuff on the horizon where we're going to need you. Okay, if you're a hairstylist, we are going to need you. So, but not just hairstylists. In general, there are so many ways people can volunteer. Mm-hmm. Sherri, do you want to just highlight some of the areas that we are needing right now?
Sure. Project 309. When the kids get back in school, we always need tutors. We have some great tutors that come in right now, but we can always use more. The more one-on-one we can get with the kids, the better for that help with that homework right after school. So that's between 3 and 5 in the afternoon, a weekday kind of volunteer opportunity. We do like a once a week commitment, but we'll work with people. The Hope Store is another great area that I kind of send people that don't know where they want to volunteer. It's friendly, and it's a big group of volunteers. They're great, and you just can sort through all the donations that we get. And probably after all this, we're going to be getting a lot of donations. I would assume people are cleaning out closets. There's craft time on Fridays where they do crafts with the shelter ladies. We have Promise of Hope once a year. That's a big one that's very popular. We have all kinds of opportunities, serving lunch at the shelter, actually preparing a meal, which now it's going through restaurants, but for small groups and that type of thing, we can do group volunteer efforts as well. So
good. Yeah, and we're pretty seasonal as well. There's a lot of things that we do certain times a year. Mm-hmm. We've always tried to have easy on-ramps, is what we call it, where people feel like it's an easy way to get involved with what we do without really committing.
Right.
So we've just postponed Serve the City for the spring, but it will be in the fall. Mm-hmm. But that's another way that people can serve the community, serve as a group, and get a bit of an idea of what we do and what people do around us. The other thing that I think I love about what we do with our volunteers is we give them a place to dream. Mm-hmm. It's not just, here's what we do. We don't want your opinions. Just do it. It's not like that at all.
Right.
Sherri, share with us 2 aspects, the Career Center mm-hmm. and the Hope Store, and how those came, not the Hope Store, Promise of Hope.
Okay.
So the Career Center and Promise of Hope, how they came about, and just again talking about how we want to release people, not just in what we're doing, but perhaps we can't do everything, right?
Right.
We have literally hundreds of ideas coming from people all the time, but there are some that will strike a chord with us that we feel that's going to meet a need, that's going to be something that may be unique. Tell us a bit about those 2 things.
Well, with the Career Center, a volunteer had approached us about having an area that we had in the Hope Store and turning it into a Career Center, which would be more nicer type clothing, business attire, actually have dressing rooms, and have it be appointment based. So right now, a guest can call us and request to come in use the Career Center. We have a one-on-one volunteer that will work with them to find the outfit for their job interview. If they get that job interview, then they can come back and get more clothing. So it's very personable. It's very upscale looking. It's really nice. It was all done by a volunteer, designed by volunteers, and then all the work was done by volunteers. And then with the Promise of Hope, each year that just tends to keep getting bigger and bigger, which is awesome. We have Chris Davella and her Mary Kay ladies come, and we have Catherine Warden coming now doing the corsages. Tricoci helps us out with the hairstyling, and just it takes well over 100 volunteers to run the Promise of Hope. But the outcome of that is amazing when that girl gets their dress and they walk down the red carpet and they have their jewelry. We've had such good partnerships with churches and businesses doing jewelry drives, shoe drives. Midwest Technical Institute did the shoes for us. We've had more shoes than we've ever had before. So it's just all those relationships that we've built, partnering with the different companies around town that help us with the drives to make it so successful, I think.
Yeah, and the whole aim with Promise of Hope is really to get a prom dress to a girl who normally wouldn't go to prom because they could never afford it.
Right.
And so we have over 1,000 prom dresses that girls can choose from, and it's an amazing day. Although men are banned from that. So I just see it through pictures and on the TV and stuff like that. But it is one of those days where we want to bring dignity to these high school girls that normally may not get to go. I mean, how many schools did we have come this year? Do you remember?
We had that bussed girls over. We had 8 schools that bussed girls over, but we had, I think, 30 some schools represented. Girls came from like 30 some schools, I think.
Wow. So actual schools, I want people to hear that. Actual schools are busing girls to the event, which isn't heard of. You don't normally get that.
Yeah, and again, each year, it's grown. So we're up to 8 schools. Actually, once they hear about it, once they do it, they love it, and then they want to come back next year. So yeah, it's a great, great event to show those girls dignity and compassion.
Yeah. Sherri, tell us a bit of some of the highlights of some of our volunteers. Like, what are the people like that volunteer for us? What are some of the things that you're like, Andy, you got to hear this about what this one volunteer did? I mean, they've heard it already with a couple of the podcasts, but for someone who's just listening now, just tell us a few.
I'd like to share about Ursula Town. She is a engineer for Caterpillar. She's a working mom. She actually started volunteering with the CAT work group. So we have a CAT work group that comes once a month, and they do different projects throughout the Dream Center. They're amazing. There's a core team of volunteers that come from CAT, and then there's always new ones that come as well. Well, Ursula is always in that group, and she actually this past year led the group and was in charge of that group. And like I said, they come in and do painting, all kinds of stuff. But she also got involved with Project 309, so our after school program. She actually leads the STEM program on Friday afternoons, where the kids are learning about science and robots, and it's amazing. She's a very busy person, but yet she still finds time to volunteer at Dream Center. And the kids love her and her team of volunteers because they get to do all that cool science stuff.
Yeah.
It makes it fun.
And the amount of people that come from all different walks of life to serve. I mean, we're talking about someone who is an engineer at CAT.
Right.
We've got a TV anchor.
Yes, Shelby Roberts. She comes in and the kids just swarm when she comes into Project 309. She comes in and helps them with their homework, and she's talked about her career and different things. So she's a great role model for the kids.
Yeah. And then, we've got a lot of stay-at-home moms that bring kids to serve as well. we've even got, and I'm going to share this story because they're close friends of mine. But we have quite a few retired guys and ladies, and we have the three amigos. They'll kill me for saying this, but the three amigos, they're three guys who, if you've been around the Dream Center and you've seen these wooden walls that we've got everywhere, Sherri hates it when I go, hey, we need to put wood on that wall. But these guys have built everything from doing areas of the Dream Center, doing cabinets, painting, you name it. These guys do it. Yeah, they're awesome. Rob, John, and Dennis, they help us. They go beyond what they do. Your regular guys would do. And the story behind Rob and John is their lifers in the military. These guys did a lifetime of service, and these guys could just be chilling out at home, right? Or fishing. Or fishing, right? They have served our country so well, and yet now 2-3 times a week, if not more, they're at the Dream Center serving. And they're just an example to so many other people that we have serving at the Dream Center. Anyone else that comes to mind, Sherri?
I think of Kathy and Carol that run that Hope Store ship, and that's a big ship to run. There are a lot of volunteers that come through the Hope Store, and Kathy and Carol, they are just the most gracious, loving people, and they just handle it really well. I just love them. They're very dependable.
And there's so many people. I mean, literally, even if you look at Mission Peoria, Backpack Peoria, it takes hundreds of people to pull that off.
All the churches, all the youth pastors. We couldn't do it without them. Yeah.
So if you're, again, looking at wanting to find a place to just connect with others that are like-minded, but also serve families that are really struggling, families that are in poverty or low to no income, kids that are really needing someone that would be a great role model, and you feel you could be that role model, please jump onto the Dream Center website, dreamcenterpeoria.org/volunteer. Get that filled out, and you will then be connected to Sherri, and she will get back to you like within days, literally days, to be able to really get you positioned, whether you're a pastor, small group leader, whether you have a group at a corporation or a business, or you're a family that's wanting to serve. Just fill that out. That's like our main funnel into the Dream Center, and then we can then get you connected. Sherri, anything else you want to share just about the journey of being a volunteer coordinator?
I give a shout out to Ed, who does all the volunteering in the shelter. That guy, he flies under the radar, great volunteer as well. So I just wanted to give a shout out to him too. There's so many good volunteers. I joke with our volunteers and tell them that we have the best volunteers in the world. And we really do. We have some awesome volunteers, and we appreciate them so much.
Yeah. Well, again, if you want to get involved, go to dreamcenterpeoria.org/volunteer, and make sure you're also following us at Dream Center Peoria on all the social media outlets. Again, during this time, we're just going to be bringing messages like this and just trying to show you some of the people. You can hear from some of the people that are behind what's happening, not only at Dream Center, but in the city. So again, until next time, thank you so much for listening. And we look forward to connecting with you again in the near short future. Thank you, Sherri.
Thank you.
Thanks again for listening to the Dream Center Peoria podcast. We hope you enjoyed the episode. If you know of anyone that would be interested in hearing about what we just talked about, we would encourage you to share this episode with them. Be sure to stay tuned for future episodes. Thanks.